Hello. Assignment 5, Application and Context. The Kitchen, Visualizing the Everyday by Humaira Hussain. On the first pages, I collected some ideas. Anything I found in the kitchen that would be useful for this sketchbook, I put it on here. And in the following page, I put together techniques and textures and mark making that I wanted to explore and all the goals that I wanted to achieve in the sketchbook. The first thing I did was do quick doodles. Found everything that I needed to in the kitchen and drew them as fast as I could. I didn't want to spend too much time on them. And I think this works out really nice. I think it looks pretty cute. On the next page, I did some paintings of ketchup with gouache on brown paper bag. I did stripling and I think it works really well on the paper. I also added some shade. On the next page, I did a brown paper bag with fruit in it. I used colored paper to make the fruit. Over here, I did a painting, a rapid sketch painting of a pomegranate. And over here, I made stamps with the pomegranate. As you can see, the colors came out quite purple, a very dull purple and a bit of green. And I was expecting more of that, but it didn't happen. Maybe because of the paper and the paper was very different. On the next page, I used pomegranate on 300 GSM paper, and the purple came out pretty good. On the next page, I did some limited line practice. And then on the following, I created pattern with the limited line. And I think this works really well. I overlapped with the colors as well. On the next page, I experimented with foil, cheese grater, and I'd create a cheese grater and a knife. And here, the brown, which looks like my knife, was a brown paper bag. Over here, I drew this. I think this is quite quirky. The lines on here created a really unique shape. And I thought it would be great to draw this. And I tried to do it with pencil. I created lighting and the shading in there, which worked out really well. On the other side, it's really in detail. If you zoom up, bring it here. Where is it? Here you can see that is over here, and then there to create shade, I've created stripling effect over here as well, and I think it works out pretty well. Looks nice. On the next page, I experimented with collage. I created Red Bull can, sorry, with foil, and I also created wording with red paper. And on the next page, I created a top of the Nando bottle. I used magazine cutouts as well that have orange and black on them, and I also created my own as well with color. On the next page, I did drawings of tender stem broccoli in different mediums. My favorite has to be this one because I think it looks quite quirky, and I did painted outside a line as well. Here I experimented with foil and cutting it out and creating a shape. And over here I did a cutout of the apple as well. And I think it works pretty well when I change the page, and I can see that I can from both sides see the different textures. Over here I created a pencil drawing of an apple. I tried to create shade and did a cutout of one as well, drawing of one as well. On the next page I created loads of different pastas with pen and marker color. I tried to do it as quick as possible so I didn't have to think about what I was drawing, and I think it turned out pretty good. On the next page I did an ink illustration of garlic bulbs, garlic, onions as well. That, I think this looks really nice. It's one of my favorites because it's quite quirky, and the shading works pretty well here as well. I like that one. However, the next one I don't like very much. It's pencil colors and markers. I think the markers, the line's too thick on this. I'm not a big fan of this one, but it was an experiment, which, you know, that's why we're using a sketchbook. The next page, I worked with lots of different materials. Lots of different materials. Fork, knife, spoon. I've experimented with turmeric powder, coffee, and chocolate powder. I wanted to see what I could work with later on in the booklet. Next page, I used stuck receipts on the back and painted with gouache red pepper. I think it looks okay, but I prefer the stripling on the brown paper bag, and I think stripling might have worked better on here as well. So maybe perhaps next time I could do that. On the next page, I worked with thick and thin black marker. So I really like this as it's quite the detail doesn't look, it looks unique, and for an onion I think it looks like something else, like a monster, or even it reminds me of Groot from from Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think a close-up something can come out as something else sometimes. Over here I did a painting of my a kitchen, a part of my kitchen. I did quick drawings of ink, and then I used watercolor. Next I did something similar. I used part of my kitchen, a table. I set up a still life with avocado and salt and pepper, and I drew that with marker pen with a bit of watercolor. On the next page, I took out all the few teacups I had, and I drew with really faint colors, watercolors, and I think that looks quite cute. This has to be one of my favorites. They look really nice all together. Here for the first time I experimented with jelly print, and my favorite has to be this one, but I think I need a bit more practice on this. If I ever did this again, I would do it in a different color, and I think, yeah, it looks okay for a first try, but I think I need to try some more with this one. Over here we have some rapid sketches of my spice jars and spice rack. I really like this one. I like the quick drawings that I did, and I think I'm going to do this and I did some again later on as well because I really liked them. Over here I started doing my sequences, and in this I drew my sequence of making a salmon dinner. I'm making potatoes, and I put instructions here on how to make it, and salmon, and how long it should be in the oven, etc, etc. On the next page, I drew a sequence of peeling a tangerine and eating it. Well, peeling a tangerine really. And I actually really like this one. I think it's quite quirky. The next one, this is a gouache painting with no outline. This is something that I really wanted to practice, and I got it down here. I tried to create shade with a bit of pattern, which I thought was a good idea, because sometimes shade can be quite boring, and then but when you create nice patterns with it, I think it looks quite nice. On the next one is back to sequence, so eating a jammy dodger. That looks nice. On the next page, another sequence, eating a banana, and I did that with gouache. And another sequence of a recipe of creating a Greek salad, and I added words on there to convey to the audience what they need to do, as in cut all the vegetables and the cheese and the olives to create the Greek salad. Next here, I got the idea from the assignment. It said to peel bulbs, garlic bulbs, and cut them and try that. So I did that as well, and I think that works out quite well from there to there. I think that works out quite well. I used ink for this and a bit of watercolor. This one was not a very good idea. I don't think it's worked out really well here, but it's an experiment. I used the cake things on the cake, what they're called, cakes. We bake cakes in them, and I used baking sheets to make it look like somebody was eating cake, but doesn't look right at all. So that was a very bad idea on my end. On the next page, I traced these and it's a placemat that I got from Morocco, and I just placed it underneath the paper and drew over it. First of all, I used a pencil, which you can see is really light and you can't really see it. And on the next, I used soft pastels, which worked out really well. And I did it again, just full with the full page, and the pink looks really nice. I think that's quite. The design on this is pretty nice, and then it just transpired there, which was really good. On the next page, I hadn't done blind contour drawing, so I decided to do that, and I drew bottles. And I started with not looking and doing it, and then the lines went all over the place. And then eventually I started with doing blind contour and ended up looking tiny bit just to complete the drawing. And I think the overlapping works really well here. On the next page, I have a recipe of a chili sauce. I used cutouts of a magazine to create this, and on the magazine I did some drawings with ink. I'll also put on their writings to convey how much they should be putting in there. Over here I drew hot chocolate, and with the hot chocolate I also drew with hot chocolate using cocoa powder, and which I experimented on earlier on. I think it works out quite good. I had to use a bit of paint just to add a bit of more shade, because the cocoa powder wasn't really that dark. I also created a really swirly shape, and just for fun I also added a bit of chocolate added a bit of chocolate wrappers I had been eating. I thought it would look cool with the chocolate drawing. On the next page, this is where I started to focus on the third part of the assignment, is combining things together to make one image. Over here I combined two together, and I think this works out really well. This is one of my favorites, and I thought, okay, so this would be my final one. And then I thought, let me experiment some more, and I created this, which is just line drawing. And from there I recreated it using colored paper. Over here I did another line drawing with pen, just to see if I can put the ingredients together differently. I experimented with paint here, see what I could use on the more or less the final one. And then I recreated it with all my ideas combined together, and this is what I've come up with at the moment. What I'm going to do next is put it up, do a prototype of it, and see if I can put it up on the wall to see how it looks like. On the last page, I did an evaluation of all my work, and I think I put together a really nice reflection, which I'm going to put a copy of so everyone can read it on my assignment. And on the last page, in the beginning, I'd created a little pocket where I can put some ideas and little textures, any colors that I was coming across that I really would have liked to put in my sketchbook. And that's it. That's my final page. I hope you enjoyed looking at my work. I'm really proud of this because this is I think my first ever sketchbook I've actually completed. And it's a strong sketchbook as well, and it's not falling apart. The threading is pretty good, and I'm quite happy with it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing my sketchbook.